Hi everybody, welcome back to our 5th episode of our show. Once again, I'm Felipe Caicedo.
And I'm Michael McIntyre, and this is
Sports Talk with Mike and Felipe.
And of course, 2 weeks ago, the Super Bowl was played between the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers, with the final score being 34-31, Ravens on top. Joe Flacco, of course, was named MVP. What are your thoughts about the game?
It was really interesting. There was a lot of things happening in that game. Ravens had a huge fast start, 21-6. San Fran did not look prepared for the game at all. They were unbalanced. They were on their heels. Everything was going wrong for San Fran, and 21-6 at the half looked like a pretty big blowout in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to go like, this is gonna be a pretty bad Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it even got worse in those first few seconds as Jacoby Jones entered the second half.
Yeah.
With the 108 return yard touchdown to blow it open 28-6.
Mm-hmm.
Tied a record actually for longest return in the Super Bowl. But then the lights went out in the Superdome, and San Fran was able to regather a little bit, and they came back with 17 unanswered points.
Right.
And they brought it within 5, but the Baltimore defense was able to hold their ground, and they ended up, like Michael said, winning 34-31. Ray Lewis, again, ended his legacy with that Super Bowl ring, and I think personally Jacoby Jones should have been the MVP for the game, not Joe Flacco, although Joe Flacco did do a great job. And Colin San Fran, wowed everybody with that amazing comeback. So it took a while to get to the end of NFL and football season, but now, finally, baseball, for all you baseball fans, baseball's finally here.
For you.
Preseason started just a couple days ago. Pitchers and catchers reported. Everybody's now, looking for games in a matter of weeks for spring training games. Michael, who do you think will be the biggest surprises possibly for this 2013 season?
Well, I'm going to look at the Baltimore Orioles just to see. They had a fantastic season. Nobody knew that the Baltimore Orioles can go from number last to number first, and playing with the Yankees in such a great great AL East battle last year.
Really tough division.
It'll be interesting to see now that all of these transactions have been happening, if we can see another battle in the AL East. What do you think about this? What do you think about the surprises? Who do you think will be the surprise team?
Well, I'm going to agree with you. Baltimore will be another surprise. As last year, they were a surprise to me. And I'm going to add 2 other teams to this list. First, let's go to the West, the Angels in Los Angeles. They signed Hamilton to another big contract. So first, power. The Angels have a lot of power. They have Hamilton. They have Pujols. They have the second year, I'm going to say rookie, but Mike Trout.
Yep.
And Trumbo can hit possibly up to 40 home runs. There's a lot of power in that team. A lot of RBIs are going to come from this team. And then you have, a pretty decent pitching staff behind Jared Weaver. The second team, the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, I'm going to go a little bit bandwagon here, but these guys got a lot of talent from that Marlins trade and even from other trades and signings. They've got a lot of speed, defense, pitching, and a lot of power. Jose Bautista was, injured half the season last year, but he can get up to 50 home runs. And Encarnacion last year had 40-plus home runs. So, that's almost 100 home runs combined, just the 2 of them. And then you got, Melky Cabrera, the steroids. But we're going to see if he can keep up with that great batting average that he had last year. And a lot of speed on the bases with, Reyes, Bonifacio, Rosmus, and Rajai Davis. They can steal a lot of bases. You're going to see up to, 20-plus for at least 3 of the 4 of these guys. And then you got a great pitching staff for the Blue Jays this year. Ricky Romero, Brandon Morrow, R.A. Dickey, Cy Young for the NL last year. Josh Johnson and Mark Burley.
It looks when you've taken and seen all these players, that Toronto has been the number one in team in terms of transactions, but we've seen from other teams, the Philadelphia Eagles maybe to ring a bell a little bit, that when you make those transactions and you have all these players that everybody knows their names, it can sometimes bite you in the butt and be a curse. So I will like to see Toronto do well this season, but in terms of their division wise, I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if they are going to win the division. I'm probably will pick them as a wild card going into playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially with Toronto and all of the players now that we all know by name. Felipe, what are your teams to watch for this coming season?
Okay, so we've gone through, the teams that might be our surprises. Now we're going to look at, some teams that could be a surprise, but, they might still be able to challenge some of these bigger teams. The first one I'm going to is the Atlanta Braves in the NL East. They got both Upton brothers now. They've got some pretty good pop, and, they're going to bring in a lot of runs. Justin Upton and BJ Upton, they're going to be playing center and left field. Also, you got Freddie Freeman, Brian McCann, and Jason Hayward. They're gonna bring a lot of runs. The batting average is gonna be up. We're gonna watch for Atlanta in that East. Although the Nationals, they're gonna be really good. They're gonna be battling back from that playoff loss. Another team, a lot of people may not think so, but since we're from Seattle, I'm gonna say the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners, they have a lot of young talent. They're the second youngest team in the MLB. Kyle Seager, where I like to call Mr. Two Outs, he led the league in most 2-out RBIs, even over Josh Hamilton.
Yep.
Michael Saunders, the outfielder for the Mariners, he's young. His numbers have been improving year after year after year. You could expect up to 25-plus home runs from him.
Yeah.
Ackley needs a bounce back year after his, a little bit slump last year. And also Jesus Montero. He did okay last year, but I'd like to see him improve a little bit more, both power and average-wise. Justin Smoke, this guy came a couple years ago to the Seattle Mariners with a trade for Cliff Lee. Right now, it looks like a bit of a bust right now.
I agree.
Because his batting average is not there, the numbers are not there. I think he needs to prove himself as an MLB player this year in order to keep that MLB job.
Going off your Mariners thing, I consider the Seattle Mariners to be an unexpected future, to have a mysterious future. I don't know how they're going to do this season. Many people say that they're going to have the same old season as they usually do. Some people are going to say, oh, the Mariners could make a wild card spot this year with the new wild card additions, and now the Astros coming to the AL West. I really don't know what's going to happen. We've seen the acquisitions with Jason Bay and Morris, but I just need to see during spring training, during the first couple of weeks, seeing if we can keep the batting average high, keeping the pitching strength well, and keeping it consistent. And hopefully the Mariners, if they can go and compete against the Angels and the Rangers and even the Oakland A's, who don't count the A's out of this division.
Oh, yeah.
You can't count the A's.
A lot of young talent in the A's organization as well. And another thing I want to say for the Mariners, they've always had great pitching.
Yeah.
The great young bullpen, they can fire it up there almost up to 100 miles per hour. They got a lot of nasty stuff. They have I think the next premier closer, the bartender, Tom Wilhelmsen, he's got a nasty 12-6 curveball. The big three of the MLB, these three young prospects, Taijuan Walker, James Paxton, and Danny Holtzman, these guys are really good, and they're really the face and the future of the Mariners pitching organization. I mean, they can wind it up there, and they've got a lot of nasty stuff. And the last thing is King Felix Hernandez signed another big contract that won't even start until 2015. So essentially the Mariners have Felix Hernandez locked up to 2023.
And today is officially the halfway point of the NBA season with the All-Star Celebrity Game on tonight. Now is a good time for us to talk about which teams have been struggling, which teams have been improving. Felipe, what do you think about the teams that have been improving?
I'm going to start with Indiana and Chicago.
Yeah.
Indiana, they're first place in the Central. They're really hard to beat. They've got a lot of power inside, perimeter shots. But, you know, they're going to have to keep their ground because you got to watch out for now the Chicago Bulls. They're only 1.5 games behind that first place lead. And, they're surprising. They can be very dangerous. They can also be very, you know, cold at times. But, you know, hopefully, whenever Derrick Rose comes back, that team is going to be really hard to beat.
Well, it's been a disappointing season for Chicago in terms of Derrick Rose, and now Carlos Boozer also having an injury. But you have to look at the bright side for the Bulls. They have an organization that has the top line players and has a future going into the rest of the season, even into maybe the playoffs if Chicago can make it that far. They've had some great wins on the road. Unfortunately, they have lost key games: Indiana, the Pacers, Denver, even San Antonio, and at Boston, where they had beat Boston on the road a couple weeks ago. I was just reminding Felipe, in a couple of weeks they'll be down in South Beach playing the Heat again. We'll have to see what happens with that.
Probably another win. Miami. Now that's a big story. They're 36-14, number 1 in that Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. They're playing the best basketball in their franchise right now, I think. LeBron James, MVP season. Probably most of us think so. Once again, he's heading into the All-Star break, 7 straight games, 30-plus points, shooting over 65%. First time in history. This guy is living up to his contract, living up to what people think he is. He's just, I think this is right now the start of his prime, honestly. He's just too good. Now that we're talking about basketball, let's move on to some college hoops. March Madness is closing in. Michael, who do you think may make the biggest impact this year in the tournament?
Well, the weird thing about this year in the top 5, to be precise, is that you have number 1 teams falling every week. First it was Duke, you had Indiana falling, you have Michigan falling, Indiana falling again. You don't know really who to look at, even in the top 2. But Felipe and I are going to focus on 2 teams right now that nobody talks about. And that, first of all, is Gonzaga at number 5. ESPN doesn't want to talk about Gonzaga because Gonzaga plays in a small conference against West Coast teams that nobody knows about, nobody cares about. Well, Gonzaga has a program that dates back to the 90s that has been constantly improving. Mark Few, the coach, brings together a team that is worthy of the NCAA tournament year after year after year. And this may be one of Mark Few's best teams. Elias Harris, Gary Bell Jr., Kelly Olynyk, just what a fantastic amount of men. And, of course, Felipe has his team at number 3.
Number 3, the University of Miami. They're 20-3. They've knocked off UNC twice, more than 25 points each. And they've also knocked off Duke, more than 30. This team, you got to watch out for these guys. And I'm going to make my announcement to the world right now. For my bracket this year, I will have University of Miami going all the way as of now.
No regrets.
No regrets.
And before we go, I'd like to thank all of you guys for keeping in touch and watching us, liking us on Facebook, and watching our videos on YouTube. Just a reminder, if you want to rewatch old videos to see if we lied about predictions or anything, go right ahead. They're on our YouTube page. And we also want to give a shout out to our friends at The Bark for including us in their newspaper today. It was a very nice article. They also have the links to our Twitter page, YouTube page, Facebook page, if you guys want to come visit us.
So we're going to say goodbye with our usual thing. I'm Felipe Caicedo.
And I'm Michael McIntyre. And this has been Sports Talk with Mike and Felipe.